secretly got married after my family insisted I wait for my brother to finish his prison sentence and be my best man. Travis came first in everything, and that single fact shaped our entire family's universe. When I was 13, I broke my arm at school and waited 6 hours in the nurse's office because my parents wouldn't leave Travis's baseball game. The day my college acceptance letters arrived, I opened them alone in an empty house because Travis was going through a breakup, and they'd driven 3 hours to console him. By the time I turned 18, I'd learned to forge their signatures on permission slips and medical forms because they couldn't be bothered to remember I existed. My parents weren't trying to be cruel, but they'd trained themselves to see only one son. Then came the lake incident that changed everything except the family dynamics. Travis had taken his wife and toddler out on the boat without life jackets because rules were suggestions to him, always had been. When his son went overboard and drowned, the law called it manslaughter and sent both parents to prison. My parents called it a tragedy that happened to Travis, somehow forgetting the small coffin we'd had to bury. They reorganized their entire lives around prison visits and commissary money and phone calls from their incarcerated golden child. His absence somehow made him more present than ever, and every conversation became about how much time until he could come home. Violet entered my life 2 years into Travis's sentence, and for the first time, someone saw me first. We fell in love over coffee and long walks where no one interrupted to talk about Travis's latest prison job assignment or how hard the holidays were without him. When I proposed, Violet said yes immediately, and we started dreaming of a November wedding that would be small and perfect and ours. I told my parents over Sunday dinner, and something miraculous happened. My mother's eyes filled with tears of joy while my father patted me on the shoulder and offered to help pay for the wedding. For once, just once, they were looking at me and seeing something worth celebrating. The weeks after announcing our engagement were like living in someone else's family. My father actually asked about wedding venues over breakfast, and my mother found her wedding dress in the attic, offering her veil to Violet with happy tears. They calculated what they could contribute, and I remember thinking maybe I'd been wrong about everything. Maybe I'd just been too sensitive all those years. Violet and I fell asleep looking at wedding magazines, finally believing we'd get the celebration we deserved. It lasted exactly 1 month. We've been thinking, she began. You can't get married while your brother is locked up. The earliest he might get parole is 5 years from now. My father joined the call to explain how Travis had called them sobbing about missing family milestones, devastated that his little brother would get married without his best man. When I said Travis had never shown interest in my life before prison, they acted confused. The wedding funds they'd promised were clearly being held hostage, though they never said so directly. They just assumed I'd cave like I always had. Violet watched shocked as every family dinner turned into a fight. My parents would spend the entire meal detailing Travis's prison struggles while ignoring any mention of our wedding. They scheduled all family gatherings around his visiting hours, and even suggested we use our venue deposit for his lawyer instead. When we showed them our save the date cards, my mother pushed them away to show us a photo of Travis in prison, calling us selfish for celebrating while he suffered. It never occurred to them that he was suffering because he'd killed his own child. We proceeded with the wedding anyway, booking vendors with our savings plus what my parents had promised during that brief moment when I'd existed to them. I told myself their coldness would thaw, that they'd honor their word rather than miss their other son's wedding. Violet knew better, but let me hope while quietly preparing for betrayal. The venue called 3 weeks before our wedding date. Our final payment had bounced. When I called my mother, her voice was casual. We withdrew our financial support. There will be no wedding until your brother can attend. After that, the vendors called one by one. My parents had contacted several, attempting to cancel our contracts. They knew we couldn't afford everything without their help, and assumed this would force our compliance. My father insisted it was for our own good because family meant sacrifice. That night, while I sat among the wreckage of our wedding plans, Violet pulled out her laptop and showed me what she'd been quietly planning. 2 tickets to Hawaii she'd put on hold weeks ago. She'd seen this coming while I'd been clinging to hope. We booked them that night with our honeymoon savings and left 2 days later, telling no one. We exchanged vows on a beach with strangers as witnesses while the sun melted into the Pacific. Our first dance was barefoot in the sand to music from someone's speaker, more perfect than anything we'd originally planned. For 1 week, we turned off our phones and disappeared. On our way home, I posted our wedding photos to Facebook with a simple caption: got married, honeymoon in Hawaii. My phone exploded before we reached baggage claim with the messages I'd expected. My mother disowning me, my father cutting me from the will, and Travis declaring me dead to him from prison. They'd spent my whole life making me invisible, and now they wanted to make it official. I waited for it to hurt, but they finally put into words what had been true my whole life.